What's up? I'm Shane and welcome to Goswick Lane. You saw the title. One comment was, don't bite the $7.5 billion hand that feeds you. Stay tuned to the end to get all the data on the research that I've done to give you all the insight on Airbnb's new policies coming up in the near future. The article that I'm speaking about will be linked in the description below. So let's start out. What are the policies? I've got my handy dandy notebook here. Let's get into it. The changes that they're going to make, that Airbnb is making, the total price will be listed before checkout. So as your customer, as your potential guest, we'll call them PGs, are scrolling through the listings and scrolling through the titles and scrolling through the maps and all that stuff, your total price for the dates that they selected are going to be what they see, not just the nightly rate like they see now. So right now, if your house is $150 a night, that's what they see. In the future, what's coming here is the price displayed will show your nightly price, the total. Say they're booking for 4 days, so 150, 4 days, be $600. Say your cleaning fee is 150, so it'd be 750. Then you got taxes, Airbnb's fees, blah, blah, blah. So if the total for 4 days is 900, that's what they'll see, not the $150 a night. The other changes that we'll be making is the algorithm is going to change to favor listings that are lower priced, high quality. So let me give you an example. If there's a property that's, say you're booking for 2 people, and there's a property that's $60 a night that has a 4.9 rating, and all the other properties are $70, $80, $90, $100, $120 a night that have a 4.9 rating, that $60 property with the 4.9 ranking is most likely going to rank first. That is going to be the first one that the customer sees. So price and value are going to be linked together in accordance to be at the top of the Airbnb rankings. So why is this happening? Why are these changes being made? Well, Brian Chesky, the owner of Airbnb, says, one of the quotes from the article says, "I heard you loud and clear," and he's speaking of the guests. "I heard you loud and clear. Guests were tired of basically the pricing not being totally transparent up front." And Brian Chesky is trying to get back to it being a valuable consideration of going to an Airbnb versus staying at a hotel. That's what they started at, and at the moment, that's what they're trying to get back to. And the reason I say at the moment is because we don't know. We don't know what their goals are. We don't know what things are going to change in the future. What we know is that they are going to do their best to make money and give money to their stockholders. That's their goal. Okay, and I'm sure to run a great business. So, and right now, I believe that they have enough of a supply with hosts in the market that they can start favoring their guests more, which is not, I was going to say how I feel that they're doing. It is what they're doing. They've been making this trend and this transition for the past couple of years now, and you've seen that through some of their policies that they started to come out with, as far as, like, for example, cancellation policy against host and guest as well. Another change that they're going to make is the checkout process. The checkout process is going to be visible to the guest prior to booking somehow. It's either going to be one of the second things that they see after the listing and the price, or something there. It's going to be visible to the guest. Basically, what they're trying to do is get rid of making the guest do things like strip the sheets in the bed, do the laundry of the whole house before they check out, things like that. We'll get into that in a minute, how I feel about that. But that's what they're trying to get rid of, because guests don't want to do that. Again, Airbnb is starting to really favor the guests. So what are you going to do about it? And I've been on several of the Facebook groups tonight, the Airbnb Superhost, and just reading through the comments and see how people feel about it, specifically the host. And most of the sentiment is that this is not going to be good for a host. That's how most hosts feel. And I kind of lean towards that way too. But let's kind of dive into a few of the finer details as far as, let's go back to the pricing and adjusting the pricing and how it's viewed. Airbnb tried a similar thing with this back in, I believe, September of 2020. They wanted hosts to switch over to a new pricing method to where it showed the guest the total fee and not just the nightly fee. And this was an option that a host could accept, but in order to do that, the host was paying all the fees. So let's say I'm going to book an Airbnb that's $1,000 for 5 days, and that's, as the guest, that's what I would see. So as the host, I would just say I'm paying all the fees. So in order to do that, if you were going to do that, and I believe that is still an option, if you're going to do that, then you have to figure out your pricing and all your pricing strategies based on that extra 15 to 17, 18% that's going to come off the top of your booking price, because the guest, it's not being calculated on the guest side. I'm assuming that most people don't. The way the pricing strategy works right now is Airbnb charges the host, you, 3% of what comes in. Now, that's not just 3% of the nightly rate. That is 3% of the nightly plus the cleaning fee. Airbnb also charges 15% to the guest. And that's not just the nightly rate. Again, that is the nightly rate plus the cleaning fee. So those two things, that's what goes to Airbnb. One of the comments that was made on the Facebook page was, you're going to talk about exorbitant, big cleaning fees, but we're still going to charge a guest our 15% and the 3% on the host side. Now, I will say that if you looked into other platforms, if you're on Vrbo, they charge their host 8%. It ends up being 8%. And for Airbnb to only charge 3%, that is a benefit to us. That is not much to get on their platform and reach their audience. And Airbnb knows that. So we do need to be thankful that we have an opportunity to be on that platform and only be charged 3%. Stay tuned. Next, we're going over different points on how to still be awesome at the Airbnb game. So stay with us. But Brian Chesky, the owner of Airbnb, made the comment to the guests, says, I hear you loud and clear. If he said that to you as the host, what would you want to tell him? Put it in the comments below. I'd love to hear the things that you have to say and the complaints and the constructive criticism that you have for Airbnb as a host. One of the comments that I read is that, I'll just read it to you. One of the comments on Facebook, I would like to see them invest more in training their teams and educating guests rather than empowering them to seek refunds for everything. We've seen some of this. Most of the time when I call in, the reps don't even know the policy. They apply their own arbitrary interpretations. On more than one occasion, I've had to pull up their policy to show them where they've misquoted. This has actually happened to us. One occasion, we had a guest coming in to check in. They said that they didn't have the code to check into the property, the door code. They contacted Airbnb. We missed the message somehow. They contacted Airbnb, and within 20 minutes, they had a full refund and a cancellation that dinged our record as a cancellation. Our door codes go out automatically. It's one of the first messages that a guest gets. It was in there. We showed it to the Airbnb rep. They did apologize and make things right, but we had to talk to the guest to get the booking reconfirmed. Otherwise, it would not have been reconfirmed. So there are times where you just get to slide into the stick because the guest calls in and says, this ain't this way, this is not this way, I need this to happen. And sometimes they just don't do their job, and that is frustrating. So here's what I believe the deal is with the pricing. The pricing, if it's mandatory for all guests to go to this, it levels the playing field. And what you're going to do, how you're going to win, is if you have a reasonable cleaning fee, because that's probably one of the things that makes the adjustment the most as compared to other listings. If you have a reasonable cleaning fee, I think you're still going to be up there. If you're a top listing already, you're still going to be a top listing if you have a reasonable cleaning fee. And what's reasonable cleaning fee? I don't know. Reasonable is comparable to your market. Look at the other properties in your market and see what they're charging. If you're $100, $200 higher than the other properties that are comparable to yours, then either you're getting ripped off by your cleaning company or you might be ripping off your guests. Bring that down and be comparable. You're going to have to do that with this pricing strategy. With the cleaning changes and adding the checkout list so the guests can see that up front, I do agree with Airbnb. You shouldn't make your guests strip the beds and do the laundry before they leave. Our cleaning policy is basically, if you break it, fix it. If you mess it up, wipe it down. If you make a mess, wipe it down. Basically, like the rules your mama said when you were growing up. If you get it out, put it up. Those kind of things. That's basically our policy. We do ask our guests to listen. If you dirtied up all the dishes, at least put them in the dishwasher. You don't even have to start it, but put them in there for us, and our cleaner can start it when they get there. So just like common sense things. Here's a sticky point. Y'all tell me how y'all feel about and how y'all handle this. Stuff left in the fridge. I think if Airbnb is getting super picky, which I think this is going to continue to get worse because they're starting to want us to be a hotel and be a full, like, almost concierge service for their guests, when I don't believe that that's what Airbnb is. I think also Airbnb wants us to price our properties like a hotel when that's not what it is. When's the last time that you went to a hotel and you had 3 bedrooms and a full kitchen and maybe a pool in the backyard? Well, the hotel may have a pool, but you don't have 3 bedrooms and a full kitchen. Like, it's not the same thing, but they're trying to cater to the guest so that simple. When more people book, Airbnb makes more money, right? This is business. And in order right now, because I feel like they might have a surplus of hosts, they're leaning towards the guest on their policies so that they get more bookings. Obviously, that's just business. You boil it down to it, that's just business. I will say that Airbnb, think of it like Google algorithms, Facebook algorithms. They're going to write their algorithms in a way that benefit the way that they want the people on their properties to run. This happens right now. This happens in every tech company. The algorithms are written in the favor of the people, the homes and the host that they want to get booked. Okay, so if you decide to leave some things in your cleaning process or your checkout process, like stripping the beds and washing the laundry and those extra things that you may have in there right now, the algorithm will punish you. I promise you, it will. They'll figure out a way to read that checkout to-do list, and if it says something in there about stripping, I promise you that you're going to get knocked down a few notches. Are we going to win? Here's what I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be like host against Airbnb. Who's going to win? This big fight. Meet us in the parking lot. We're going to see who's going to win this thing. It doesn't need to be like that. We do need to be heard as host. I believe that. I don't think we're doing a good job as host right now being heard. And what's it going to take? I believe it's going to take host finding out a way to be heard and banding together. Take the top hosts from all over the country, work together to work with Airbnb to get some things and some changes made that we want made. The guests are being loud right now, and it's pretty apparent. And Airbnb is changing based on the guests being loud. You see this all over. You see this in politics. Typically, who's the loudest gets heard. It's not necessarily who has the best argument when you come down to like mob mentality. I'm not going to get into that, so we'll move on to the next point. I really want to point something out here right now. Who's taking the risk? In this model, you have host and you have guest. In those two, you got host and guest. Who's taking all the risk? I think it's pretty easy to clarify that the host is taking all the risk, at least 95% of it. If you bought a house in the United States in 2022, the average house price was around $350,000. If you did that on a commercial loan where you had to put 20% down, that 20% is $70,000. After closing, you're looking at $75,000. It's probably a little bit more than that, but you're looking at $75,000. And then you have to furnish it. If you're putting it on Airbnb or you're doing short-term rentals, you have to furnish it. So let's say that's $10,000. It may be more than that, maybe a little bit less. So you're talking about $85,000 that's coming out of your pocket to get this property on Airbnb. Now, there's other ways to get a property started with BRRRR method, financing, doing your own rehab, things like that. You can go back and watch a couple episodes. Probably the main one that you'd want to watch is the one with Braden Oram, episode 3, 4, or 5, somewhere in there. We did 2 episodes together, and we talked a lot about basically creative financing and how to get deals done and how to not finance them yourself, how to get the bank to finance the full amount of that property for rehab. So go back and watch those. I'll link one here or here, wherever it goes. You've done your research, you looked at your market, you've checked on AirDNA or Price Labs to see that, okay, you feel like you can win here, or you have some experience and you're winning on other properties, and you say, okay, let's go for it. You got 85 grand out of pocket in most scenarios. That's a lot of risk. Now, there's a big reward if you do it well, but it's a lot of risk. For somebody to come visit your property, they pay a nightly fee plus a cleaning fee plus taxes plus Airbnb fees. Their risk is that very minimally, they could possibly lose their money. The way Airbnb is structured is probably not going to happen, but it is a risk. So who's taking all the risk? Well, the hosts risk it. The hosts, we the hosts are risking it for the biscuit, right? Because of the returns, the possible returns. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs, as business people, as risk takers. That's what we do. We create to provide. I say that because I do feel that Airbnb is really pushing towards the guests. We're going to get into what you can do about it in a minute. So stay with us. Really good stuff. Now, host, I'm bringing this back. We're putting this into perspective and being grateful and thankful at the same time. If we're grateful and thankful, you can't be negative at the same time. Your brain won't do it. So let's find something to be grateful for. We are grateful to Mr. Brian Chesky. We are grateful that he started this. Now, when you're comparing our risk of purchasing a house to his risk of starting this business, I guarantee you his risk was greater. 100%. There's no doubt. When you individually compare a host to Brian Chesky, now he's reaped the reward of that. Dude's worth $7.5 billion. Don't bite the $7.5 billion hand that's feeding you. He's still providing a platform for us to win. We can still win on his platform. We just have to play by his rules. And we talked about that a little bit earlier. If you play by his rules and you play well, you can absolutely still win. So don't get so caught up in the negativity of the changes and all those things that are happening. That's their right. That's their prerogative to make those changes and to want to make it better for the guest, although we feel like it's somewhat unfair. I want to be clear on this too. If we look at Brian Chesky and we think, dude's got it made, he's worth $7.5 billion, he's got all the money that he'll ever need. He's just being greedy, blah, 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 bad dude, blah, blah, blah. If we fault him under the pretenses that he's just got a lot of money, then we are absolutely living in a scarcity mindset, and you will not make it any further if you cannot get out of that scarcity mindset. Be abundant. Have an abundant mindset. Think that way. If you know in your heart that there's enough for everybody and that you want to help everybody, then that's what will happen. So no more why. What can we do about it? What are some action steps that we can take? Well, number one, you can be the best. Be the best in your market. Study your market. Know what else is out there. Be the best. Have competitive pricing. Buy deals that are going to work in your market. Don't just go buy something that you like and that you would want to live in. Buy things that are competitive, that can be competitive in your market. Know your numbers. If you want to learn how to analyze deals better, go to YouTube. Go to Rob Built. Well, you're on YouTube. Hello. Type in Rob Built, ROBUILT. He's got one video specifically that he gives you a document to analyze short-term rental deals. Use it. Another guy you can watch if you want to really win and understand the nuances of Airbnb is Sean Rikidzik. I think that's how you say his name. Dude has a ton of stuff on YouTube. And I would say watch his content. Don't just watch it, consume it, because there's so much value there. So get on that data train. Compare your listing with the other listings in your area and figure out how you can improve and consistently improve. Don't just set it and forget it. That's not going to make it in this game. That used to make it 3-4 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago. That used to work. That is not working anymore. I'll give you an example. When I started in our market, we're in Longview, Texas. When I started in our market, I believe was September of 2021. There was 7, maybe 10 properties on Airbnb. Today, there's probably 80 to 100 in our area. That's how much it has increased. Is that not crazy? Now, we hit it at the beginning, which was awesome, which kind of gave us a leg up. But if you're going to win now, you better be the best. Consistently improve on your property and how you market that property and how you price that property. So we've talked about how Airbnb is consistently moving towards the guest, away from catering to the host. What's another thing that you can do about it? Well, got my notes here. Number one, you need to start keeping your guest information. When somebody books with you, Airbnb doesn't give you much of their information, but it gives you their name and their phone number. Put it in an Excel file or Google Sheets file and hang on to that. I'll tell you why in a second. If you don't grab it while they're staying with you, or from the time that they book to the last day of their stay, if you don't grab it, it disappears. Airbnb's smart. They know that data collection, any tech company knows that data collection is super important. So they're not going to let you hang on to that any longer than they need you to have it. So why are we keeping that data? It may be time for you to start your direct booking platform. This seems and sounds and can sound really daunting to do that, but there are a few platforms now that make it easy. We've just done ours, just finished it. It's not actually like 100% complete, but probably about 95% complete. So it's a lot more available now than it used to be. If you're not already convinced, I'll tell you why. If you're still asking why would I start a direct booking platform? Well, number one is control. Just like Airbnb controls their platforms and they set the rules and parameters of how they want their platform to run, now you get to do that. You get to control the parameters and who books and how they book and what their experience is. Listen, don't do this unless you have a good process that you've set up to manage your Airbnb to start with. Work on your processes first. Even if you're at 1, run 1 like you would run 100. Now, it's harder financially to run 1 like you would run 100, but if you can think that way, once you get that process down for 1, it's easier to scale to 100 if that's your goal. If you want to stay at 1 and you want to do everything manual and Airbnb is sufficient enough for you, this is not like a cry for you to start a direct booking platform. Not at all. If you're happy, do what you do. Don't exceed where you want to be. If your goal is to scale and to get bigger, you need to think like that now and not wait until you have 10 to think that way. There's 3 words that my brother and I have really honed in on lately, and you can watch the last couple podcasts ago with him. Optimize, automate, and outsource. A couple books by Ari Meisel, The Replaceable Founder, and The Art of Less Doing are really good about those 3 words: optimize, automate, and outsource. A couple benefits to creating your own direct booking platform is that your guests pay less. They pay about 15% less, which is the Airbnb fee. You get paid the same, or you can raise your prices a little bit to get paid a little bit more, and the guests still pay less. And you don't have to stay in this unhealthy mindset searching for 5-star reviews. That's another benefit. Now, be a good host. Be a great host. Don't use that as an excuse to not be a good host, that there's not repercussions. People can still find you. If you've held on this long, you get an award. You get the bonus. And the bonus is, you may say, I have no idea how to do a direct booking. It sounds like really technological, advanced. It is a little bit, but let me guide you. And if you want more information on this, if you want me to do a video on this, I'm happy to do it. I just leave a comment so that I know that a bunch of people actually want it, because it can help you. And the platforms that are out there right now make it a lot easier than I'm sure it used to be. So the way that we do it, we built a website on Squarespace, which is about as simple as you can go. Squarespace or Wix are 2 of the simplest website building platforms. And then from that website, you can check this out. It's goswicklane.com, the same as our YouTube. Go on there and click at the top, Airbnbs. From that page right there, you can click on the 6 different doors that we have if you want to stay. And when you click on that, it actually is linked to our Hospitable account. Our direct booking platform is hosted through Hospitable. Hospitable is an app that can is a platform, a software that can automate your messages across multiple platforms. So we have it linked with Airbnb, VRBO, Vrbo, and our direct booking platforms. And you can input information for private bookings as well. That is the easiest way that I found to do it. If you found an easier way, link it below. If you want to see a video on exactly how to do that, I'm happy to share. Go check our website out. If you don't know how to build a Squarespace website, go to Fiverr. So I'm going to put our referral links for Hospitable in the description below. I don't think we get paid, but they give us some money off our bills. If you sign up through that, you might get a little bonus too. Hopefully. I hope you do. So you can use those. If you don't know how to build a Squarespace website, go to Fiverr. Fiverr has a bunch of people that'll do stuff for cheap and just get the basic built. I don't care if you copy ours. Tell them, go look at that one and copy it. Put your own pictures in there. You can use the wording. I don't care. As long as you're not directly in my market, it's totally cool. Do that. And then with Hospitable, it's actually really simple to get that stuff linked over and to build your private platform on there. Again, if you want a video on that, leave it in the comments. If we get a bunch of comments on it, then we'll do a video on it. Okay, that is it for today. More comments, leave them below. How do you feel about the upcoming changes that Airbnb is making? You can do it from a host perspective, or you can do it from a guest perspective. I'd love to hear both. Remember, love God, love others, and let your work reflect that. We'll catch you on the next one.